Okay, I'm going to start a new type of segment. My last magazine show bit the dust, but following on from what I tend to see on VC, although I'm not able to do videos on vinyl finds here in Thailand because there ain't no vinyl, I thought, well, I'd just shift it across a little bit and do digital finds. Digital finds to my Winamp player, and there's plenty of opportunity for that. So this is the first of them, and it's January's 2021 digital finds, but it's about a month late. So I'm going to incorporate February as well into this first one, and I'm going to focus in this video on new releases or new to me. But there will be mostly 2021 releases. But of course there are other albums that I find that I've never heard before. So I will throw those into the pot. Alongside that, I'm going to do digital rediscoveries in a separate video. This is music that I have and I have heard before, but I've rediscovered. More about that when I get onto that video. So let's get going then with what we might describe as digital finds for 2021. So I'm going to feature 4 acts, 4 artists, and the details will be in the description with links to the music that accompanies my review. The first of them is an African-American woman, DeFranco. This lady has been making music for over 3 decades, but I hadn't heard of her, or I had heard of her, but I hadn't took any time out. She's made her music solo albums. She's been part of trios, and also she's had bands, and she's renowned for her political activism across racial, social, gender, economic, environmental issues. And she's also quite well known with regard to personal activism, with regard to her musical styles, and she puts this into her musical input. And she lives currently in New Orleans. But I came across this new album that was released in January, and it's called Revolutionary Love. And I'm going to go through it briefly. It's fair to say that DeFranco encapsulates a real eclectic mix of music. It's mainly residing in Black American styles, particularly soul and R&B, but she's also very adept at lounge jazz style music, and also music of a sort of gospel field with a blues tinge, and also she can put herself into funk music and a folk style music. So basically there's a lot going on here. Just to look at a few tracks on this album that really caught my ear. The opening track is the title track, Revolutionary Love, and it's absolutely drenched in gritty soul, and it has a lounge jazz feel to it with a beautiful sensual mood. You can hear the Hammond organ and the slide guitar combination, very delicately played, and there's some horns back in the mix. It's a truly enjoyable experience. Next up, Bad Dream. This is a song which has got a very gospel feel to the sound. It is a blues ballad. And then something completely different hit me on Chloroform, the 3rd track, with strings highlighted, violins. She's got a sort of Macy Gray-like voice, and it's a bit difficult to categorise this, although I did hear the African tribal rhythms, which are syncopated with funk mixed with strings. And the single, Do or Die, it's got a lovely piano Latinino Stan Getz-like rhythm. It's smoochy, and Annie's vocals lush over you. and then that sax tends to squirt out with flute as a combo to further lighten the mood. And the last one I want to mention is Shrinking Violet. It's an atmospheric blues soul mix, but it's got a 21st century gospel feel about it. Very powerful vocals and some absolutely gorgeous, delicate guitar solos, which are prominent. To continue my look at black artists in 2021, I caught an EP on YouTube by one Jasmine Sullivan called Hope Tales, and I listened to it, and I certainly was taken in by a woman who's got a tremendous voice. You can see why she's a rap singer, a hip-hop singer, and a traditional soul and R&B singer. She's done her pedigree working for such famous soul giants as Mary J. Blige, and on this EP I was particularly impressed by the rap R&B rolled together on track 2, Pick Up Your Feelings, and then there's a gorgeous little ballad called On It, where she's featured with a rapper, Ari Lennox, and it's a gorgeous R&B ballad, and altogether I was thoroughly impressed by her. Although it has to be said, I'm not really up on rap and hip-hop. And coupled with this, I also caught a rap singer on YouTube based on new release called Hopsin, and I watched his video, and there's a link down below, and I really do suggest you watch it. The rap song is called Your House. It's a brilliant video, great sound, it's full of attitude. It's got some powerful intro guitar, which is highly charged. It's a very electric piece, and the video is really in your face and really brings home to you exactly what Hopsin is trying to convey in America, of course. Next along, the new album by Weezer. This was released in January, and it's called OK Human. Now, of course, this Los Angeles band from California, they emerged in 1992 and had a big single hit in '93, singing Buddy Holly, and of course it adorned the Happy Days sitcom show for many a year. So we could hardly forget that one. The band's run by one Rivers Como. He's the genius behind them. And this OK Human is their 14th studio album. Now, I have to confess, I have got a lot of their albums, but I'd hardly be telling the truth if I said that I was familiar with them. A lot of them have probably had just 1 or 2 listens. So they're not my cup of tea, really. But I went into this one with an open mind, and I was pleasantly surprised. Of course, the recording is with analog, and it featured a 38-piece orchestra, and I enjoyed it. It's got a very baroque pop influenced sound. Many critics have said it's inspired by Pet Sounds, but I didn't hear that at all. Also, that Harry Nilsson singing Randy Newman. I'm not familiar with that, but what I can say is it's got a very interesting cover. Of course, the title is vis-a-vis with the Radiohead cover, OK Computer. A maze of musicians and occasional animals, which is supposed to represent, I guess, the inside of a computer with all the discs and the hardboards and the CPU, etc., which is quite a clever little introduction. As for the music, I'm going to touch on a few of the songs. The opener is very appealing, and it's actually their single, All My Favourite Songs. It's It's got a lovely flute intro, and then it develops almost nursery rhyme-like, and Como starts the vocal, accompanied by violins and cellos. It's got a pop beat, which reminds us of the Weezer, but it's catchy. Although I did sense that maybe they'd smuggled George Martin into the studio from his grave. Next up is Alu Gobi, which is much more of a goofy bubblegum sort of song with a jumpy riff, and the piano fits glove-like into the strings, and you can imagine yourself almost at a carnival. Moving on, a track that did impress me was Playing My Piano, which is really just rivers on solo vocal with the strings and a little bit of piano, and it's stripped back, and the orchestral arrangements are jocular and skippy, a bit like what one would have received from a McCartney song, and it's very moving. Cover the whole album. I might actually do a full review on this one, but I also like Dead Roses, which, as the title would indicate, is a bit dirge-like, but the bass is able to drive a nice gentle beat. And then finally, track 11, which is Here Comes the Rain. I really like this one. It was very McCartney piano fed, and it's very upbeat and positive about how to ditch your troubles when the rain comes and eases them. And so I'm generally quite impressed with it, seeing as I'm not too familiar with Weezer. And so maybe I'll go back into their back catalogue and dig out some of those other albums that are littered around on my discs. Finally, Mogwire. They've released a new album, As the Love Continues. They're a Scottish band, and again, it has to be said, I've got a few of their albums littered around on discs and computers and what have you, but I haven't really got the foggiest idea what sort of band they were like. But they had a new release at the beginning of February, As the Love Continues. They're described as post-rock, and that I apparently should know is experimental textures with a basic hard rock beat. Right. Okay, not a bad album. I've listened to it a couple of times now. The first two tracks are very much synthesized hard rock, very atmospheric, mostly instrumental, but they have a crescendo type feel to them, very triumphant, and I enjoyed them. But I'd like to mention the track 3, Dry Fantasy. This is much more meditative with a synthesized sound prevalent. And then an arena rock-like song on track 4, which is Richie Sacramento. And on this, I could visualise The Edge, but possibly a bit heavier than The Edge. That was what it meant to me. Now, the last one, I'm not going to spend much time on this. The Foo Fighters had a new album released at the turn of the new year, Medicine at Midnight. And I have to say, I haven't really been a great fan of this band, right back into the grunge days. I wasn't that keen on Nirvana. But anyway, Dave Grohl's band, I gave it a listen, and I gave it a second listen, and I came to the conclusion that it was real middle-of-the-road tedium, underwhelming, unadventurous, and certainly not my cup of tea. So I'll welcome comments from Foo Fighters fans who could try and correct me on that one. Okay, so that concludes my first digital finds, new releases.